Hello, welcome back to Blake's Den. Something a bit different today. I've been buying myself a winch, an incredibly cheap winch from a local auction, bought sight unseen, complete with a Land Rover Defender winch bumper, complete with a genuine Land Rover rust. So yeah, I didn't actually want this for the winch bumper. I've already got a winch bumper on the Defender. I actually didn't even want to put the winch on the Defender. It was the winches to go on a trailer. But anyway, I've got it. I've had a quick play with it off camera and it doesn't work, which is a bit of a shame, but I think we can get it working. So I'll show you what the problem is. I've popped the cover off for the solenoids. It was just 3 little screws holding it in. And identified which was the positive connection, which was the negative. There's also a negative little fly lead. You can just see the eyelet in there for the remote. So when I press the remote in either direction, I just get clicking. So something's happening, but obviously it's not working. The most obvious issue I can see is corrosion. There's quite a lot of corrosion on all of these terminals here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take them all apart one by one, clean them all up with a wire brush, put it back together and see whether that makes a difference. So as you saw there, I hit everything with the wire brush on a drill. Had one problem. That one of the terminals sheared off when I was undoing the nut. That could be the problem, I'm not sure. It actually seems to be good electrical contact, but basically I've got the same issue that even with everything cleaned up, it's still clicking. So the next thing I'm going to look at is the connections to the motor itself. So I think to do that, I think I need to pop that bolt out. That'll remove this plate and then I'll be able to access the terminals behind. With the solenoids removed, there were 2 bolts holding it on, you can see the connections to the motor, and I've just pulled these rubber boots back and everything looks fairly clean. I mean, there's evidence of corrosion on this, as you would expect if it's been on a Land Rover or a 4-wheel drive crashing through water off-road, it's going to get wet, but those connections look okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try putting power direct to the motor and see what happens. Well, that firmly falls into the category of that escalated quickly. I've ended up pulling the entire winch apart. That's a gearbox there. I've had all the gearbox apart. I've had the motor out, the support bearing out, got the solenoids over there, I've got the winch drum over there, and I've got the brake assembly over here. And the whole thing was solid, and this is part of the drive mechanism, and you can just see all the corrosion on it. Horrible stuff. As for the motor, I think this was the reason why, or one of the reasons why, it was not turning. So a couple of things I've spotted. Obviously, a lot of corrosion on the commutator, and the brushes are not great. I mean, one's got massive chunks out of it. That one down there. So, oh, and those 2 leads coming off here should be connected to those 2 leads in there, which is probably why it's not working. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just hit this with a wire brush, clean it up, try assembling it and just see if I can get it working under test conditions with sort of these wires bodged together. I didn't film taking it apart, only because I was watching YouTube trying to work out how to take it apart, and I didn't think it was very good. You watching a video of me watching a video of somebody else. So yeah, I'll get this cleaned up anyway and I'll see if we can get it working. So putting the motor back together, I've got some studs instead of the bolts which had snapped. And I've also insulated those with heat shrink, various layers, because I don't want those touching the field coils when this all goes back together. The original bolts had like powder coating on. So I'll just use that instead. So I'll get this back together and we'll give it a test. Right, a quick update on the winch motor. The wires which go to the brushes which is broke, I spliced back together just using a crimp-on terminal thing like that. Well, it's like a butt connector. Not sure how long they'll last for, but at least prove it if it works. Had power to it. It doesn't want to spin, but that's because the movement in the shaft, it sort of shorts out itself basically, so I need to put it back together with the bearing, and that's going to be today's job. One of the problems I do have is the plate it mounts onto. Don't worry, I've got a new bearing. The bolts have snapped off completely, so those two little M5 bolts there are what hold the motor in place, and yeah, they snapped off. I thought they would do when I took it all apart, so I'm going to weld a big nut onto there, get them off, and I've got some M5 studs to replace it with. So when you come back, hopefully this will all be back together and it may work. The motor's back together and I've got it hooked up to a battery using some jump leads. So the test procedure is earth goes to the earth on the motor, positive goes to one of the field terminals, and then with a screwdriver, and expect lots of sparks, jumper out A to the other field terminal. That seems to be working. And then if I swap over to the other field terminal, the motor should spin the other way. Fantastic. So I think my battery's getting a bit flat. It's only an old one out the Mini. So, but yeah, that was doing the job. So the motor works, which is the main thing. And I haven't actually replaced, well, I've replaced the bearing and I've replaced the studs. But in terms of the electrical gubbins inside the motor, all I've done was join the brush leads back together again. And I probably damaged those when I took it apart anyway. So yeah, quite happy with that. Right, I'm going to then assemble the rest of it back together again. I'm not going for a full restoration with this, I'm just going for functionality. So I'll be putting it back together and basically does the whole thing work. Before I get too carried away, I just wanted to test the control box work. So I've got a very temporary setup here. So I've got the incoming positive, got the earth going to the motor, the earth from the motor to the battery, and then this wire snapped up, so I'm just going to hold it against there. But when so yeah, that's working. So yeah, we're all functional. We just need to get it back together. Fast forward a few days and it's all back together. I didn't end up reusing the aluminium bars which run along here. They had snapped off bolts in them. Tried to drill them out with a hand drill and basically went massively off centre, and yeah, they're now no longer serviceable. I should have used my lathe, but I'm trying to be lazy and take shortcuts. Another thing I've done is I've wired on these old cables here. So these have already made an appearance in a previous Play Extend video on a barn find generator. Links above, go and watch that. So they're actually off a booster pack. Like a big Sealy jump pack, which I've recycled once and recycled again. So it's obviously negative to negative, positive to positive, and then the negatives attached to the motor and the positive to the positive buzz bar in the control box. So, bit of real jeopardy. Does it work? I haven't actually tried this. So at the moment the motor's in free spool and I've got the controller here. So that seems to be working. So let me put it into winch mode, which is turn this all the way around, and let's see if the drum turns. Yes. Out. And in. It's obviously wanting to pull itself off the bench there because I've got the hook caught underneath. But I would say that works a treat. Let's try again. Out. No, I was in, sorry. Yeah, and obviously out, there's no tension on it for it to wind out anyway. So, fantastic. So I'm really pleased with how that's worked out. Total cost, I got the winch and the bumper together, £48. The bearing I replaced, I got 4 for £10. So say £2.50 there. So up to £50, 50 pence. And then the studding, I think that was about £4. So yeah, really pleased with that. Yeah, my plan is to put this on a trailer, so that will be coming up in a separate video. I've still got the bumper, it's sitting on the floor of the garage, over there, in front of the Turner Ranger. That will be an integral part of my plan of how to mount this on the trailer. I've got a good idea already. It definitely needs to be bolted onto something solid because you can see those studs are beginning to twist already. There's nothing which joins the bottom halves together, it's just the top half, so it's supposed to be bolted on a plate. So thank you for watching. I hope you found that video useful. As usual, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.